Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. This is going to be a bit of a different kind of video really, in the sense that I'm starting off by showing you me filming my MacBook. This is the video, some of the video I took of Beeps' Neo Geo CD repair. Now I lost some of the videos, I didn't film all of the stuff that I did. I'll show you what I have got following this, me rambling on here. But just right at the start of this, I want to just cover really the end result really, and explain a little bit about what I did, what might not be shown. I honestly can't remember what footage I've got. I'll just stick in all the stuff I have and you can at least see what I did, some of the things I did. But I just want to really just talk about what I did that isn't shown, and ultimately what the end result was with this. I didn't manage to fix it, and I suspect it's this chip down here. You can just see it sort of, it's the opposite way around, unfortunately you can't read the part number. You might be able to see that bit later on some of the other parts of the video, but that was the DSP, and I suspect that was the fault. There's a couple of other components on here that I did swap out. I swapped out as you can see it's missing there now actually, the BTL driver, H-bridge chip for driving the motors and things. That was my first port call, that didn't solve it. The next thing I did is swap out this voltage regulator. I think in fact it might be a transistor, I can't remember, I think it's a transistor. So I swapped that out, no difference. It didn't really need doing, to be honest, because I measured the voltage on one side of that and it was something like 7 or 8 volts, and I think that's exactly what it should be. So it didn't need doing, but I did it anyway. I swapped out this Sony CXA1372AQ here. Those are readily available on AliExpress, no problems there. Still didn't make a difference. Swapped all the caps, every single cap on the board was replaced. They were measured, they were all okay, but I swapped them anyway just in case they had any leakage current and stuff. That made no difference. What else did I do? Turned the board over. If you look on the underside of the board, which you'll see later in the video, there's a shitload of SMD resistors on there, and I checked every single one of those resistors multiple times. No problems there either. Other passives and things on the board, there's a couple of inductors you'll see at various places, I think. I can't remember them, marked with L something, or those were all okay, like 1 ohm, no problems at all, no opens, no shorts, no open circuits or anything on any of those inductors, they're all okay. There's lots of service mounted caps on there, but they're like ceramics and stuff, they don't fail, so it's not going to be one of those, it certainly isn't. There was no other damage to the board, no marks anywhere, no corrosion, no nothing really, not much to go on. I suspected at the end of the day, like I say, that the DSP, or this little chip, sorry, it's just screensaver kicking in there, this little chip here, and this is connected to, it goes right to some of the motor control stuff. I think it might be the focus, and I'm suspecting that could be an opamp. So there is a small chance it could have been that, but I don't know, I couldn't find a part, a data sheet for that. Neither of the codes brought anything back in web browsers or anything, any of the parts search databases or anything. I couldn't find a single bit of information for that, not even what kind of component it actually is. So I'm guessing it's probably an op-amp, just based on the location it is, or some sort of op-amp / driver. But ultimately I do think it was the DSP. The behaviour of the thing was working fine, it was just like there was nothing coming back from the laser, or it wasn't detecting the laser, and all the other passives are alright, transistors are alright, inductors are alright. This is just a microprocessor that controls your main logic, moving, the timing, moving things around, etc, etc. Could it be that? Well, there's a small chance. I don't think so. And I think if you want to replace that, might be an issue, unless it's like the code is in the form of a mask built into it. I'm guessing you might need to program it with JTAG or something, because there's no ROM or RAM on this board. It's all probably embedded within that chip. So that's interesting to know. You might be able to find a replacement for that, I don't know. I don't think that was the fault, to be honest. I think we'd see other logic issues, in the way it behaved. I think it would behave in unusual ways if there was something wrong with that microprocessor. It all seemed to be focused around the laser, or their lack of signal. I even went as far as I got various camcorders out, old camcorders, trying to see if I could detect the infrared, which is sometimes picked up on certain laser frequencies. Some of those old CCDs, some of the old camcorders, you can point your camcorder at a laser while it's trying to focus on a disc, and sometimes you can see it. Unfortunately, that revealed nothing, but I think that it's my camcorders don't, they're not in the right spec. The CCDs aren't in the right spectrum range or something to detect that. You've got to have specific models of camcorder to be lucky enough to see them. Anyway, I'll let you watch the rest of the video. Thanks for watching. Just looking at this Neo Geo CD for beeps. Then I can get his 2 consoles sent back. So as you can see, SNK Neo Geo CD Pro Gear Spec Advanced Entertainment System. I think this is probably one of the earlier revisions. I don't know, there's different ways that the CD loads, I think. I've taken the plastic surround off there just for the moment because I've been experimenting with as things stand. I ordered the part before I even had this because I suspected from what Beeps had already tried that that was what was required. And I'll show you one of these BTL driver chips. You perhaps might be able to see that. So I've got a couple of spares there. I know I think he probably tried adjusting the spindle, and I've done that myself. Spindle height. He's put a new laser on there. I think this is actually the old original laser, but neither of them make any difference at all. And the spindle height doesn't make any difference at all. It's the same as the Dreamcast. You put the disc in, the head assembly will move, to the starting position there, so it hits the switch and finds the inner track, and the focus will make the laser go up and down. It's seeking for the disc, looking to see if there's a disc there, and doesn't do anything, doesn't spin. So I suspect it's going to be the same as the Dreamcast. Not the Dreamcast, the Saturn. So if I take the lid off, I'll show you the inside. I don't think, yeah, there is a wire. You'll see you've got a wire on this side here, well, a flat flex that connects to your CD controller assembly. So that's that. Did notice one thing to point out here. This has been previously damaged a little bit. It looks okay. Sorry, it looks okay there now, but one of the pins there is detached at the very bottom, so you've got to be careful when you stick that in and out. I think it's probably been in and out several times. I noticed that when I first got it. There's a wire here. I speaks about this. He explained, I think this is some sort of region mod or something. He's got a switch on the back here. You can see this. Where's it gone? Can't see the damn thing now. Oh, it's on here. There you go. There's the switch. Yeah, Jap/USA. So not sure how that works and what that does. Maybe it enables a different character set or something so that Japanese games can be played. I'm kind of expecting it to be between sort of 50-60 hertz. Interesting thing is you've got a little thing down here that you can see, this little table. I'll just zoom in so you can have a better look at that. Yeah, so as you can see, Japan, USA, Euro, and there's a lot of jumpers. That's interesting. Yeah, so you've got a separate sub assembly, as you get a lot of these systems here for the control ports. That's your CD lid switch, so it knows the lid's down. Connected by a flat flex, not much else going on there really. Just looking, these 4 jumpers actually relate to here. J1234, J1234, so that's a bit odd. I'm not really sure why it would be on here, but there you go, he's got his switch there, look. So that's interesting. Must have done a mod to the underneath of that particular board. I guess it makes it easier to do, it's more accessible. And at the back, I'm not at this stage. I'm not going to take the cover, this plastic covering off this board here. I will do later, just to give you, once I've got this working, just to give it a bit of a tear down, because there's a few things to point out and stuff. But yeah, and I'll do the same with this. I'm not going to take that off just now. But yeah, you got looks like some sort of power control and stuff going on here. Look, this looks like that's a transistor. Looks very similar to other systems and things. Yeah, that looks like a regulator because you've got an in and an out. That's a regulator, an in and out, and that's a regulator in and out. So you've got 3 of those. A couple of beefy diodes there. Anyway, so that's that. Like I say, we'll have a look at the board and stuff, the boards, and move that plastic casing piece there later. The immediate thing that I want to focus on here is the CD drive. So I believe the lasers have both been marked with a pen before they've been changed. Now, one of the things I'll point out here, and I touched upon it briefly in other videos, but perhaps not to the same degree of importance. And that is, playing with a pot here. Yeah, it's all fine and well when you've got a read problem like this. Within a small degree, you want to make a mark or something, and a mark's a good point, a good thing to do to start with, as he's done on this. But then ultimately, you want to take your multimeter and, as I explained on the Sega CD videos, measure the pot on the back. There's 3 pins. There's a common pin and there's a left pin and a right pin. So measure between the common and the left, write down the resistance. Measure between the common and the right, and write down the resistance. If you're clever, you can actually look at the board, see where the traces go, and see which trace it is that's relevant to the voltage or the actual adjustment that you're making, and just make a note of that particular resistance. But I tend to just do both of them. Make sure make a note of which way around you're doing it, so when you come to readjust it, you can set it back as it was. But then when you adjust it, you only want to adjust it a really small amount, because you're dealing with the laser diode here, and in a CD it's not 800 millivolts. I think I might have mentioned that in my previous one of the earlier videos. I think it was about 800 millivolts. That's not right. That tends to be on DVDs, but on a CD somewhere around 600, 650, something like that. It might be a bit more, it might be a bit less. But if you adjust this pot, say, I don't know, quarter of the way around, so it's, you've turned it quarter away from wherever it was, you could be putting 700 and 750 millivolts in there when it's only expecting 650 or 670 or something like that, which, yeah, it might suddenly spring back to life, because you've moved it so far. After 5 or 10 minutes, you might find you burn the laser out completely, and that goes for a brand new laser. You can put a brand new laser on this, adjust the pot incorrectly, leave it running, thinking, oh great, it's fine, it's running, I've solved it, and after a half an hour or an hour or something, it's gone again. It won't read discs, and you've burnt the laser out. So you've got to be really careful when you adjust this. In some systems it's easy to find a test point, and you can measure on your meter and see exactly what voltage is going there, and there are lots of guides for certain systems like PlayStation 1s and PlayStation 2s and stuff where you can do that, and it's very helpful to do that and make sure that you do it accurately. But systems like this, I don't know, I can't find any information about this. The same with the Sega Saturn. Now there is a Sega Saturn service manual, but while we're on the subject of these, and CD assemblies and stuff in general, they really piss me off. They really do. I've had nothing but stress with CD drives and things in the past, and I'm sure you'll have had similar experiences yourself, like this, where you can replace the laser and you think it's the laser, and suddenly it's still doing the same, and you tweak the voltage and it's the same. You've got to mess with the spindle height, and then you get some activity there. It looks like it's behaving differently. Is it the laser? Is it the spindle? Is it the control board? It's just an absolute nightmare, really. Your best case scenario is where you've got a full service manual, and it explains where to, you've got a scope, and it tells you which pads to go onto to test points, and you can put your scope on there, look for the signals, and it gives you little diagrams and shows you exactly what you're looking for, and then you can make adjustments with the various adjustments, and tells you how to do it. That's great, but there's very few, that case is far and few between in terms of getting a full service manual for one of these, with the diagnostic stuff there, or the adjustment stuff, calibration stuff, that tells you how to calibrate it. While we're on the same subject, I got PlayStation 1 the other day. I'm having some problems with that. The PlayStation seems to be okay, but just every now and again, when I switch it on cold, it'll struggle just reading that first disc, and it's it leaves you in a bit of a state thinking, is it the laser? Is it the caps on the board? What actually is it? What's going on here? So there's just a few unknowns there. It's probably my lack of experience in terms of dealing with CD systems here, knowing exactly what to check, where to look. Some people might just be able to just stick the scope straight on the laser diode and go, oh, it's the laser diode. I'm not so sure. I don't know. So I've had a problem with PS1, even my Saturn. I will be coming back to do a video on my Saturn, because whilst that's working, it's the same sort of thing. I switch it on for the first 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 2 minutes maybe. Whatever disc I put in, the FMV on it will just be a bit jerky, sometimes stutter on the FMV. All the rest of it loads just the same, everything sounds the same. The music is okay when it goes into audio mode, but when it's playing FMV's a bit jerky, but it's only when it's cold. I play it for 5 minutes, switch it off, switch it back on, and then it's flawless. So it's left me with the conundrum there of is there something wrong with the CD drive? Is it caps? I've checked all the caps on my Saturn Sega on the board, the actual CD controller board. The caps on there are all fine. So could there be a cap on the motherboard that's doing it? I've looked at the power supply, checked all the caps on the power supply. It's not that. So you know, we might have a similar thing with this. I hope to God we don't. But CD systems, for that reason, the you know, the difficulty there. I mean, you know, in a lot of cases you can't even see the laser. It's like, you know, and you shouldn't be, you know, working on these in any direct angle to the laser either. That's important to know, because whilst you can't see the laser, it's there. It will damage your eye. It will damage the, you know, optics, all of the, you know, various parts of your eye. You might not, you know, just because you see it, don't think it's not dangerous. It is, which is why these things always have warnings on the back. You know, category 1 or category 2 laser. You know, stay well clear kind of thing. You know, so just be mindful of that as well. If you messing around with one of these, don't be looking anywhere near the laser, and don't use anything to try and reflect the laser, certainly anywhere near you. You're not going to see it. It's infrared on a lot of these. It's in that sort of spectrum of light where you won't be able to see it. But anyway, I'll get this board out of here now. As you can see, like I say, detailed driver chips, so I've got to get the one off there. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use my higher rear workstation, whether I'm going to use chip quick, whether I'm going to go back to showing you, you know, like as I did before, really unorthodox method of just heat the pins and just use something very pointy to lift one pin at a time. Once you've got one side off, the second side is really easy. You can just flood fill the other side and just lift it off. I might go that route, I'm not sure yet. So what I decided to go with here is just heat one side, flood fill one side, just lift really carefully. So it's unorthodox, it's a quick way, you know. So I'll take this off, make a note of which way up it is. So obviously the writing, you know, at pin 1 is that side there, I think. It always amazes me that people say they can't do things like this themselves. Actually, anybody can do anything. You are capable of doing anything. Anything you believe you can do. It's all a matter of patience, practice, and you know, more important, you know, planning and taking your time. With something like this, you know, as you see, I've used nothing but normal solder, a normal cheap soldering iron, and I've got the chip off there, and there's no damage to it, just because of planning, preparation, you know, technique, and having the right things, having the right materials. You know, an iron, obviously, you don't want one with a massive tip, but this iron, there's nothing special about this iron. This is not a professional soldering iron. This is a 15 watt Antex, you know, C-class. You get these for about 10 quid off eBay or something. The tip's worth about 3 or 4 quid. There is nothing special about this at all. Desoldering braid, you know, £1. You need to get yourself the basics. You know, there's a lot of people out there doing these things. Can't, you know, think it's too expensive, or, you know, yeah, the things add up. You need them all. You need flux. There's a lot of people soldering without flux as well. Flux, don't just think, you know, you've got solder with flux, so you don't need flux. That's a load of crap. I use solder with flux and separate flux. The flux and the solder really is essential. I would never use solder without flux. I'm sure there's probably people out there who would tell you this scenarios where you don't want flux in solder. I don't know. For me, it's the two go together. I can't believe there's such a thing as solder without flux, to be fair. I would certainly never be in a scenario where I would use it. It always has to have flux, but again, when you're doing something like this, SMD, flux is absolutely critical. You know, I would not be attempting to put the new chip on here in a minute without flux, and I'll show you why, and why, coming back to why anybody can do this. If you've got time and patience and preparation, you get the right things you need, including the flux. Anyway, I'll just get this off here. Could do with some flux on here now, actually, because it's not sucking up the solder very well. Retro Game Mods, a nice Swedish chap, did point out to me a few months back, actually, I think it was when I was doing my Amiga video, or one of the other videos, that there is a brand of soldering braid which has good capillary action. I think it's called Chemwick or something, so I will get some of that, but I've just got a fair bit of this to get rid of at the moment, and I've been a bit lazy to a degree because I've just got so much, I'm spending so much on components and things at the moment. I don't really want to go out and spend you know, 20 or 30 quid on some more desoldering braid. That's all it is, but I will get some of that because this stuff is pants. But it'll do the job. You know, it's 99p, let's say, for a metre or something, but it will do the job. And this stuff's pretty expensive. I've shown this before. It's chip quick. I'll use this. You're better off. Best way to get this is get, like, you get, I don't know, 6 or something for £18 or something. So it's an awful lot of money, but if you just use it sparingly, it can last you a long time. And this one tube here, I've been using it for a very long time now, I have to admit. So you might be able to see the difference now if I just see if I can get this on camera a bit better. Hopefully that flux should give us, yeah, a bit more capillary. Yeah, you can see there straight away that's brought all that off. The flux helps the solder flow in this case. That's it. So as you can see, chip removed. We'll just get some ice pop on there, put some more flux on it, put the new chip on, tag it in at the corner, which I'll show you in a sec, a couple of different corners, and then you drag solder. And this is where your flux is really important. You know, the most expensive part here, like I say, is the flux. But you can do this, anybody can do this. It's just, you know, practice on a crappy board or something first, get something faulty, an old PC board or something that's not worth anything, not a retro system, you know, because they're hard to come by. But an old PC motherboard or something, just experiment on one of those with some SMD chips like this. And you might be wondering why it's worth cleaning up when you've not finished doing the soldering. And that is just to visually inspect the area. Check the traces, check the pads. You know, when you've got flux and stuff on there, you can't do that. There might be, for all we know, there could be a burnt out trace under this chip or leading to one of these pads that wasn't evident previously. So that's why. That's why I always do this two-step thing where I stop halfway, clean it up to make it look like new before I then reapply flux and start to you know, stick the other chip on. So I'll just inspect that carefully with a magnifying glass now. So hopefully you can see I've got some flux on there now, fresh flux. We've got the chip, so I'll just stick this on here. Pin 1 is down this side here. Just plop that on. Not very well aligned there, that's not so bad. Right, and then it's a case of getting it as lined as I can do. Use a magnifier just to get in there and make sure you've got all your pins lined up as best as you can. So then when you've got it aligned as close as possible there and you've inspected the, you know, with a magnifier, you just want to heat the solder on one side, just a tiny bit, just one corner rather, just to tag it. So I'll try that in this corner here. Going to be way too much solder there, I'm not too bothered, because we will be going over doing the drag soldering anyway with some flux. The main thing is that's tagged it in that corner, so I'll just re-inspect, just make sure all these pins are all lined up okay in the other corners and things before I do the next step. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So what we'll do at this stage is, and this is going to be pretty tricky because of the clearance here, we'll add some solder here, and I'll try and do a bit of drag solder. It's not going to work very well because I've probably got too much solder. Let's give that other side a go now. Absorbs a lot of heat, this as well, so that's the other problem here. There we go. So just give the side another go because there's not much, doesn't appear to be much solder on there. Yeah, there's too much solder on there. So I've got a blob here, that side's okay. You can see flux is your friend. Whenever you get flux in there and you do the drag technique like that, even though you might have a fair bit, let's just turn this around, might have a fair bit of solder on there, it will distribute or help distribute the solder. So that's the same as the other one. I've got a blob in that corner, a blob in this corner. So I can just heat some desoldering braid there and should be able to suck up that excess solder. But as I say, the flux is the key. Without that flux, this would not be happening. all that would be happening is you'd have big blobs of solder joining all your pins and be going, oh my god, I can't do surface mount soldering, everything's joined together. Well, actually you can, it's just unit flux. There we go. So just need to clean that up, but I think that's done. So there you go, there's a close up before we test this. You can see it's looking pretty tidy on there, no short circuits or anything, so I'll give that a try. Okay, well, it's not good news, I'm afraid. I mean, I went on a hunch with this chip here based on the fact the motor wasn't spinning around, and I do know that the BTL driver in there is responsible for driving the motor. You've also got some other chip up here that contains op amps and things responsible for driving and amplifying some of the signals, so could be that as well. The other thing you've got on here is a processor. I'm not sure where it gets its code from. This is the concern with this, really. Sorry, my cats have been a bit inquisitive again. I'm not sure where it gets the code from. You've got a small chip up here, no idea what that is. Another one over here, as far as I understand that's some sort of DSP. So there's all sorts of things at play here. One thing you'll notice, I've moved this pot, I made a note of it. I've compared to other pictures of this board. It was vastly different, the position of that. That's actually the focus, I can't remember what it is. I think it's just focus control. It says FO, it could be focus, I don't know what the O stands for. I think it's probably just to do with focus control, focus gain. There probably is a separate one for focus gain, actually. Yeah, the focus gain is that middle one there. So I'll show you what was happening. You know, this has been happening from the start. This happened when I experimented with it before I swapped this chip out. Switch it off, switch it on. In fact, I'll switch it off again. I'll just move the head assembly carefully up there, and I'll switch it on. That's not doing anything, obviously. If I push the lid switch, you can see it moves. Now you'll notice there's no, I don't think there is, unless I'm seeing things. It's probably me just moving my finger there that made me think it's moving, but it seems to be, it's not moving, it's not doing any focusing. Now, unless this is one of these laser assemblies where the head doesn't move at all, it could be a fixed position one, I've got no idea. I've adjusted the spindle height, but you know, you'll see it's just not doing anything. There's nothing, there's no signs of life. I tried both lasers. The laser that Beep's got as replacement is questionable because the place he bought it from, he sent them a message saying it's not working, and they said, oh, don't worry, it's probably just a faulty one. And they gave him his money back really quickly with no questions asked, which makes you wonder, you know, was it from a second-hand unit and they've just stripped it down for parts and sold the bits off and just assumed the laser works and taken a gamble? I don't know, so we could have two faulty lasers here. There's no telling. The pot Beeps marked it originally, so I mean I've tweaked it tiny bit either way, not made a single difference, nothing at all. My main concern is that, let's say, I would expect that to be going up and down to do the focusing, and there's none of that going on. The fact that the focus has been adjusted here previously by someone else makes me think someone's had a go at that, and it was wildly adjusted. I'm just wondering if it's damaged something somewhere. Maybe there's something wrong with this chip, maybe it's a processor problem. You know, it's initialising the head and stuff, and you know, the head thing there, you know, moving it to the sector 1 or whatever it is, and maybe it's then crashing. So it could be a processor thing. Where does this get its code from? If it's actually embed, maybe you have to program this. That's a concern. Maybe it's just got a built-in standard ROM, you know, built based on the fact it's a CD, part of the CD chipset. I don't know, but you know, I do know, you know, you can get some of these, you know, it's going to be about $20 or something, you know, what's that, about 12 quid or something, I don't know, 15 quid-ish, to get one of those little Sony CXA 1372 AQs. Is it worth getting one of those? I don't know. I mean, I could spend a lot of time with scope, look at the pinouts of that. I've already got the data sheet. I guess there's a few things I could look there, but I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. There's nothing really getting hot on here. That's another point to note. Apart from that little thing down there, it's a transistor, I think. It's marked Q104, and I've checked that. That looks okay. I've checked the other transistors and things on the board. They look okay as far as I can tell. That's definitely, you know, a proper replacement. It's fitted well. got no shorts or anything there. I've checked the wires to and from the board here to the head assembly, because there are a few, you know, they're a bit, you can tell it's been pulled and pushed on and off there a fair bit, so it's not that. Measured the voltages coming out of these regulators here. I think you've got like 5 volt, and that one comes out with about 8 volts or something, which I don't know, that seems about right to me. I haven't looked at the data sheet for those just to be 100% sure, but based on the fact the carriage is moving up and down and stuff, yeah. Could even be something wrong with the interface to this on the board. I guess I'll just point out as well while I'm here, this flat flex, if I just carefully just pull this out, yeah, so this flat flex has obviously been in and out of here a fair few times as well, because whilst it looks, or you can just about see it there, if you look, that bottom pin there, you know, it's lifted a little bit, and one or two of these here are just lifted a little bit off the edge, and if you're not careful, they sort of wrinkle up when you shove it back in. So, and there's a nasty couple of creases there. I'll test that in a minute just to rule the flat flex out, but that could be an issue. And then obviously somewhere on here, I'm guessing probably this chip here, you've got some control of the CD based on the board. Could be something faulty there. It's hard to tell really, and one of the things I would expect with this, regardless of what's going on the main board, as long as the power's okay, I would expect, you know, these kind of things usually are very modular in the design, and you tend to find that, you know, all of the mechanics side of this, in terms of, you know, you put a disc in, it seeks the head to, you know, the inner track and stuff to read, and then the focus will it's all automatic. It will automatically try and focus there and get access to the disc, you know, to read what's there, what kind of disc it is, and all the rest of it. That's all sort of, like say, autonomous to a degree on most of these things. You know, the Neo Geo doesn't need to do anything in terms of, you know, maybe other than a reset or something, or some initialization signal, and I guess we're probably getting that, otherwise it probably wouldn't go seeking for the head, you know, the track 0. Not really sure what to do with this. I actually think until you can get a spare board or something for this, this is probably not going to be recoverable really, unless he sends it to someone who specialises either in this particular model or CD drives in general, and knows exactly what they're doing with a scope here to be able to ascertain where the fault is. You know, even things like the laser, you know, trying to measure the laser voltage here. I've just moved this assembly a little bit. It's a bit awkward to show this actually, but you know, where do you measure the laser voltage on here? There's an awful lot of points and things underneath. You've got, I think that's like the pickup side of things. The diode is probably sort of that may be the focus. That may go to the focus control. Maybe you've got the pickup and the diode on that base bit there. I don't know. Honestly, got no idea. What I do know is you get the same behaviour with both lasers. Yeah, I think this is beyond. To be fair, I think it needs a new drive. I mean, if this was my own, I'd probably be tempted to try and go for one of these. You know, these are the chips one by one and start with that one. But there's no guarantees with this. I just don't think this is worth my time, and I don't think it's worth Beep's time and money, because he's going to be paying for parts on here that ultimately might not result in it being fixed. Right, so as you can see, I've removed the RF chip there. Got a brand new one, so I'm going to install that now. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.